What's going on, guys? It's BrettProAngel here, bringing you today another deck profile. So, yeah, I basically decided, so Drytron's getting some new support soon, and I decided to innovate a Drytron list before the new support comes out. So, with that being said, I actually went undefeated at locals with it, surprisingly. I didn't expect much out of it, but without further ado, I will just go ahead and dive into the deck profile. So to start, we have the MVP. We got 3 Alpha Thuban. This card right here is like probably the best Drytron in the deck. It searches any ritual monsters, so yeah, it's just very good for combo enabling. Next, of course, we have 3 Zeta. Zeta is just absolutely busted. It's, in my opinion, equally as good as Alpha because it gets you to your spell, but Alpha just has a slight edge because it has more targets. And then, of course, you got to run 1 Delta, and I also run 1 Gamma. I only like 1 and 1 because Delta, some people prefer 2, but I also play Prosperity, so I don't think 2 is necessary, 100%. Gamma, this card maybe could be at 2, especially with things like Ariel floating around. But to be quite honest, if you win the dice roll and you're able to go full combo, it just doesn't matter at that point. So I'm just going to cover all the Drytron cards first. So yeah, and then we got 2 Fafnir. Fafnir is good. So with Drytron getting hindered by Benten going to 1 and Union Carry going to 1, I think 2 Fafnir is 100% necessary in this deck because you want to be able to get to your Drytron, whether it be Nova, your Drytron spell, or your Meteonis, if you already have a Nova in hand. So yeah, 2 Fafnir I think is really important. I wouldn't max out because you don't want to brick, but yeah, 2 I think is the right ratio. And then, of course, we got the 3 Novas. Easily the best card in the deck. It's E-Telly for Drytrons. You can't run any less than this. Not gonna lie though, some OCG lists only run 2, but they also have the support that we're getting ready to get. So maybe consider cutting this down to 2 after the new support, but I still don't think that's a, probability because it's just so good. And then, of course, we run the 1 Meteonis. Meteonis, this card is just absolutely, like, busted. It's the ritual spell. You only really need 1 because you're just going to keep recycling it. But nonetheless, this card is so good, and it's beautiful. And then next on the list, we got 3 Cyber Emergency. Cyber Emergency is 100% necessary. This is basically just Rhoda for any Drytron, literally. So, need I say less? It's just a Rhoda. So we have 3 E-Telly, 3 Rhoda, and a Rhoda for E-Telly. Like, it's actually pretty good. Okay, and then next we have our 2 Preparation of Rites. This right here is not necessarily for our Drytrons, but this is for our, we can add the ritual spell back from the graveyard if we've already used it, plus we can add Benten. So this right here is basically taking the place of the 2 Bentens that we lost. All right, so next, we'll move on to the ritual monsters. So first, I run 1 Herald of Perfection. I think Herald of Perfection is so important. It's not as good as Alti Boy, but this is also searchable by Preparation of Rites. So that right there is why I think Herald of Perfection is good. Also, even if you draw this, like, and you lose the dice roll and you're going second, this can enable your Beatrice play, not necessarily using this card for negates, but you can use it to get to Beatrice to get to another Drytron. Also, of course, we got the 1 Natasha. This card's still winning games, guys. Natasha is not to be underrated. This card is just absolutely ridiculous. She's still winning games, left and right. She just cannot be underestimated. Natasha is just a real card, and she should be respected in my opinion. Next on the ritual list, we got our Benten, of course. Benten, obviously, for obvious reasons, is probably the best card in the deck. Benten just lets you do some pretty ridiculous things. Okay, but then next to Benten, we have Ideten. Ideten is like the newer edition. She hasn't really seen like a whole lot of competitive play. But I will say Ideten is going to be a really important part of the newer combos to come. So, yeah, I definitely think you can't really sleep on Ideten. She adds back a ritual spell from your graveyard. So that just means you can use Meteonis over and over and over again. So that's it for those rituals. Moving on to the next rituals, we have a Fool, make that 2, and 1 Ophiel. Some people like Bethor, but I really don't think Bethor is necessary. Like, to be quite honest, like, I think another Fool is just perfectly fine. Because it's like, you know, worst case scenario, you use Ophiel and Fool to use Ophiel's effect to get Ideten. So with that being said, I mean, I don't really see Bethor as being exactly necessary. All right, and then next we have our Fairies. I run 1 Cyber Petite, 1 Eva for obvious reasons, and then 3 Herald. I mean, need I say less? Herald still just does its thing. And then, of course, 1 Manju. So these cards are just, you know, pretty good. I mean, need I say less? Herald can just negate stuff. Considering upping Eva to 2 after the new support, maybe necessary, maybe not. Cyber Petite may get cut after the support. It just depends. It's going to require a lot of testing. But for now, I think this ratio is correct. All right, and last but not least for the monsters, and you guys are going to absolutely love this, we run 1 Dark Magician and 1 Red Eyes Black Dragon. We got 1 Alti, 1 Common. Love to see it. Basically, the theory behind this, oh, not to mention our Red Eyes Fusion. So the theory behind, honestly, guys, I hate Dragoon. Like, this card, like, literally, I think it's, like, the worst card to put in any deck. It's just such a brick, and if you draw these cards, it's just terrible. Like, it's never good to draw. But to be quite honest, you can make a Verte very easily. If they hand trap you to death, worst case scenario, you can end on Dragoon. Plus, we play some back row as well, so you can end on a Dragoon with some support as well. So it's not all bad in this necessarily in this build. All right, so now moving on to the spells. I think this one's obvious. You got to run 2 Prosperity. Prosperity just gets you to your combo pieces and just enables all your plays, really. Like, if you kind of brick, Prosperity just lets you, you know, just get to that, you know, get from A to B basically with your combo, and it just enables you to do some pretty disgusting things. Next, you guys are absolutely gonna love this, but I run 2 Super Poly. This might sound a little strange, but I think Super Poly is like so underrated right now, and especially in Drytron, like, because you don't care about pitching cards. Like, you can literally You can literally pitch a Drytron for Super Poly, or what happened to me a lot at locals is I found myself pitching the Ritual Spell, which is okay because you can just get it back next turn. So Super Poly's not necessarily a bad card in this deck. It just breaks your whole opponent's board. I think it's just better than Dark Ruler No More because Dark Ruler No More just negates the effect. Super Poly just says, you know, F your cards. And then, of course, we run 2 Forbidden Droplets. I think at least 2 of these is mandatory in the main deck. Like I said, with Super Poly, you don't really care about discarding cards. Not to mention, you may have like a Fafnir still in the field. So worst case scenario, you could send your Fafnir. All right, guys, and here's the real spice of the deck, and I think this is the MVP card of the format. We run 2 Ice Dragon Prisons. IDP is just so freaking good. This card is how you out Winda. This is how you out stuff like Dragoon. This is how you pretty much out anything. Ice Dragon Prison is just such an important card in this deck, and if you're not playing this in Drytron right now with it being crippled, something's not right. So yeah, I would recommend running IDP, at least in this current build, before the new support. All right, so now we are moving on to the extra deck. The extra deck is actually very intricate. I put a lot of thought behind it. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy it. So we run one Fucho and one Nightingale. This part has not changed at all. Fucho, I almost never make him nowadays. It does come up though if you get drolled. If they droll you, Fucho's the way to go. Nightingale, she just enables your Zeus combos. So yeah, need I say less about those. And then of course we run one Downerd, one Beatrice, and one Zeus. Beatrice is just absolutely dumb. Like this card, full lets you add back Benten from the graveyard and make full a level 6. And then later on in your combo, after you get Ophiel and you use the Ophiel and full in hand, you basically ritual summon Iditen from your hand, and then you can just overlay Iditen in your level 6 full for Beatrice. And that's your new way to Gamma. Since we don't have Union Carrier anymore. Downards, for obvious reasons, she's just like a stack card for another Zeus material. Zeus is just pretty obvious. All right, now moving on to the links. This is where it gets really spicy. Some of you guys might not agree with some of my choices, but trust me, I have them for a reason. So, one Link Karibo, one Verte, this is for obvious reasons because we play the Dragoon package, and one IP Masquerena. IP is like, you know, she's so good in this deck. I find myself not making her as often now that I have Anaconda, but she does come up. Anaconda is like what I tend to go to now instead of IP. So typically the inboard nowadays is Verte with a Dragoon, with a Herald and a Beatrice. And the Beatrice can send Eva on their standby phase to get 2 more Fairies after you combo. Not to mention if you draw Super Poly or Ice Dragon Prison, you just pretty much win at this point. All right, moving on to the other ones. We run one Nightmare Phoenix and one Unicorn. Phoenix is just such a good utility card. There's so many back rows out there. You just want to be able to out them. Unicorn, just for you to link climb into access code. Unicorn just comes up so much. You always end up with a lot of monsters on the field, and you could just, you know, link them off for Unicorn, climb into access, and hopefully go for game. And then speaking of the devil, we got access code Talker, and then of course Boral Sword. This enables you to OTK more than access code, but access code is not to be slept on. It's still a very, very powerful card. And then the last 3 cards in the extra deck, I mean, for obvious reasons, we run one Mud Dragon, one Starving Venom, and one Dragoon. Starving Venom is for your Super Poly targets if they run Darks. If they're running a random deck, like maybe like Prank Kids or something like that, that's when Mud Dragon will come in. Dragoon, you know, that's obvious. We run the package. All right, so yeah, that's the main deck. Moving on to the side deck, this is very intricate as well. I put a lot of thought into it. And how to out the current meta. So we got things like Dragon Link, we got Shaddoll Invoked. So with that being said, I feel the need to run 2 Alpha. This card works well with Drytrons because if you read, it cannot be normal summoned or set. So you can still use Alpha the same turn that you use your Drytrons. Unfortunately, we can't fit a Panky Boy because Pankratops, it doesn't meet that requirement. So you can't use your Drytrons if you summon Pank. But Alpha just outs Winda. It can like force a Makaba, and then you can just proceed. It's just such a good card. And then this is the real MVP. I think I'm lying to you guys about the Alpha. Danko Seka is the MVP because she just says, F your back row. Like, if you summon Danko Seka against any control deck, they basically, if they don't have Solemn Judgment, they're just like, oh. And then you can just combo around Danka. Or just, you know, manage to go into Zeus if you have more Drytrons. All right, and then next we have 3 Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More is just so important right now. I really actually don't like this card. You guys might hate me for it, but I just don't like Dark Ruler no more. It's such a brick half the time, but I mean, it comes up, it outs impossible threats. So it makes the impossible threats not impossible, like Winda, for example. And then I run 2 Lightning Storm and 1 Harpy Feather Duster. This is basically for the back row matchups. Back rows are just such a pain, and you know, Drytron is not really a back row type deck, so it's like, you know, we're just more so combo. We don't like back row, we don't like punishment, we don't like Eldritch, and this just says no to all of it. And then speaking of back row, we also run 2 Twin Twisters. We're just not losing the control matchup, guys. Like, if we're playing against Altergeist, if we're playing against Dogmatic Invoked, if we're playing against Eldritch, we just have so many resources to out them. Not so much in the main deck, but that's when the sideboard definitely comes in. And then last but not least, I run 3 Evenly Match. Evenly Match is very slept on right now. I definitely side out my Fafnirs when I have Evenly, but you know, Evenly is just such a powerhouse. It's just, it outs so many cards, and half the time when you drop this, your opponent just says, oh my god, well, what do I do now? So yeah, I really hope you guys like the list. I went undefeated with it. My matchups of the day, what was it? Round 1, I played against Dogmatica Invoked. Round 2, I played against Cyber Dragon. I can't even remember the other matchups, but nonetheless, they were very fun, and I really hope you all enjoyed this deck profile. BrettProAngel reporting out.